Back in 1957, Jason Voorhees drowned in Crystal Lake while at summer camp, while the sex-driven counselors were distracted. So, naturally, Pamela Voorhees, his mother, went on a killing spree against these teenagers. Once in 1958, which resulted in the camp shutting down, and once again in 1979, where Pamela was beheaded by Alice, the lone survivor of the Crystal Lake Massacre. Now, 5 years have gone by, and the local legend is that Jason is somehow still alive, now a fully grown man, surviving in the wilderness, and he wants revenge. A revenge he'll continue to seek if anyone dares enter his woods again. It's been 5 long years, and he's been dormant, and he's hungry, waiting to kill, waiting to devour, thirsty for young blood. So Friday the 13th was supposed to be an anthology series, but with the first one being a smash hit, and people loving the twist ending, they decided to ditch the creative route and, instead, make the same movie over and over and over again. And it all started here, with Jason's birth, or rebirth, or awakening. It's a little confusing, I know, but this is the one that made Jason the main series antagonist, and he would continue to be the main antagonist for nearly every entry moving forward. But if you're excited for the iconic hockey-masked zombie, you're gonna have to wait one more movie. Because this movie features the backwoods sackhead hillbilly version of Jason, complete with overalls and a single eye hole in his head sack. This movie fully embraces the idea of an animalistic maniac, living off of wild animals and vegetation, gathering any resources he can and sleeping in a crumbling shack. I actually really like this rendition of Jason. He can be a bit bumbling and silly. He's not quite as menacing and mysterious, but he has plenty of personality. Or at least a lot of personality compared to what we see in the future. The original movie was a lot more secretive with its killer, only revealing Pamela once mostly everyone was dead. But this one makes sure that you're caught up, and well aware of who the killer is before the teenagers start getting chopped up. This movie feels like it's fully leaning into the franchise, and for the most part, it works. Once again, a camp is opening up, on the other side of the lake, with a new lineup of potential victims. I mean, rich characters. Characters you'll care about, that have multiple dimensions and personalities and stuff. This movie actually has a lot of characters, and every single one of them is hornier than the last. So I guess I'm happy to say Part 2 is certainly sexed up, but unfortunately when it comes to violence, this one is a bit censored. Don't worry, there's still a couple of really gruesome moments, and it's definitely R-rated. But it's disappointing when it's very clear that footage needed to be cut to appease the MPAA, who is very strict on these early slasher flicks. There's actually a VHS archive from one of the effects artists, and you can see some of what was cut. And it's not a lot, it's only about a minute of footage. But that minute is everything. It's the difference between the movie they intentionally made and a version that was gutted. It's a shame, but like I said, the movie still has its moments. I think this is a movie that gets better as it goes along. The movie opens with a series of flashbacks, which is fair, but then it has 5 straight minutes of the camera just lingering on Alice as she wanders around her house, washing her face, talking to her mom on the phone, looking at some art she made, undressing to shower, getting in the shower, getting out of the shower, hearing the phone line cut out, inspecting some noises, getting scared by her cat. You could make the argument that this is a slow build-up to a big scare, but over the course of 5 minutes, that isn't build-up, it's just padding. Fortunately, we get a great jump scare right after the cat fake-out, and instead of the screen shattering from the title drop, this time the title of the movie just straight up explodes. So, you know you're in for a good time. From here, the whole middle of the movie is pretty decent. Despite some mediocre slasher moments and some small moments of filler, it's plenty entertaining. But the ending, once it's down to Jason versus, what's her name, Jenny, this stuff is pretty good. It gets a little Alfred Hitchcock Psycho, but it all feels like it really builds off the first movie. And I think it's a good time. I would say that Friday the 13th Part 2 is about on par with the original. It has a lot of the same shortcomings, but it also has most of the same strengths, so really it all kind of evens out. But the real reason to watch this one, of course, is this is the first glimpse at a new horror icon. And it kind of goes without saying, Jason stood the test of time because of this movie and despite it. So I'll leave it at that. If you liked part 1, you'll like part 2. And if you like part 2, well, you'll probably like part 3. And if you like part 3, you'll probably like part 4. And you'd probably like part 5. And part 6. And 7. 8. And 9.